By the time Noah Mercer stepped out of the grocery store, the sky over the parking lot had turned the color of dirty glass. Late afternoon. Too early for night. Too late for comfort. He balanced a paper bag against his hip, keys already between his fingers, mind half stuck on the email his supervisor had sent that morning. Another reminder about performance metrics. Another polite warning dressed up like support. Noah was not in the mood for anything else going wrong. Then he saw the paper. White, folded once, pinned carefully beneath the driver's side windshield wiper of his aging silver sedan. His first thought was parking ticket. His second thought was someone had hit his car. His chest tightened before he even reached the door. The parking lot smelled faintly like hot asphalt and fryer grease drifting from the fast food place across the street. A cart clattered somewhere behind him. Normal sounds. Normal afternoon. But the closer he got, the more wrong the paper felt. Too deliberate, too clean. Not official, not random. Noah set the grocery bag slowly on the hood and pulled the paper free. The fold was sharp, careful, like whoever left it did not want it to blow away. He opened it. 3 short lines. Wrong car. You are not supposed to see this. Check your passenger door. No signature, no number, no explanation. For a full second, Noah just stared. The world did not tilt dramatically. Nothing cinematic happened. But something small and cold slid into his stomach and stayed there. He looked around the parking lot. A woman loading water bottles into her trunk. A teenager pushing carts. An older man arguing into his phone. Nobody watching him. Nobody looking guilty. Still, his pulse had already started to climb. Wrong car. You were not supposed to see this. Check your passenger door. Noah swallowed once. This was stupid. Probably some kind of prank. Or someone meant to leave it on another silver sedan. There were 3 of them in the lot alone. He almost crumpled the paper and tossed it into the trash can by the cart return. Almost. Instead, he walked slowly around the front of his car. Each step felt heavier than it should have. By the time he reached the passenger side, his mouth had gone dry. At first, nothing looked wrong. Door closed, paint intact, no dents, no scratches. He exhaled through his nose, half annoyed at himself. Then he saw the handle. There was a thin strip of clear tape stretched across the passenger door seam. So thin it was nearly invisible unless the light hit it just right. Someone had placed it carefully between the door and the frame, like a tamper seal. Noah froze. The cold thing in his stomach got heavier. This was not random. He glanced around the lot again, slower this time. Still nothing obvious. But now the normal sounds felt too loud, too far away. He leaned closer to the passenger door. The tape had been pressed down firmly. No wrinkles. No fingerprints he could see. Someone had wanted to know if this door had been opened. Recently, carefully. His throat tightened. Noah did not live a dramatic life. He worked mid-level logistics for a regional supply company. He paid his bills. He called his mother on Sundays. He avoided conflict whenever possible. Nothing about his world required tamper seals on his car doors. Nothing. His first instinct was to peel it off immediately. Instead, he pulled his hand back. Think. Someone left the note. Someone wanted him to notice. Or someone absolutely did not. Wrong car. You were not supposed to see this. A slow, uncomfortable realization began to form. If the note was not meant for him, then it was meant for someone who drives a car that looks exactly like his, and someone cared enough to monitor whether that passenger door had been opened. Noah's heartbeat thudded harder. He forced himself to step back. Breathe. Be rational. There were explanations, probably harmless ones. Maybe. Still, his hands were no longer steady. He pulled his phone from his pocket and snapped 2 quick photos of the tape, just in case. Even as he did it, he felt faintly ridiculous, like he was overreacting, like this was nothing. But his gut would not calm down, not even a little. After a long moment, he carefully peeled the tape away. The adhesive made a soft, delicate sound, too quiet, too intentional. He opened the passenger door. Nothing jumped out, no envelope, no package, no obvious damage, just a faint, stale smell of his own car interior. Receipts in the cup holder, an old gym bag on the floor. A half-empty bottle of water rolling slightly with the movement. Normal. Too normal. Noah let out a slow breath he did not realize he'd been holding. Maybe it really was nothing. Maybe the note was meant for someone else. Maybe he was letting his stress get the better of him. He was already reaching to close the door when he saw it. Tucked just barely beneath the passenger seat, a corner of something dark. Flat, not his. The cold thing in his stomach dropped another inch, and this time it did not stop. Noah did not touch it right away. He just stood there with the passenger door half open, one hand still resting on the roof of the car, like the position itself might anchor him to something normal. The corner under the seat was matte black, flat, too clean to be trash. His pulse began to thump in his ears. For a second, he actually considered closing the door and driving home like none of this had happened. Pretend he never saw the note. Pretend the tape was a coincidence. Pretend the thing under his seat did not exist. The thought stayed longer than he was proud of. Because the truth was simple. Noah Mercer did not handle chaos well. He handled schedules. He handled shipping reports. He handled quiet routines that stayed predictable from Monday to Friday. This was none of those things. Still, the longer he stood there, the worse the silence inside the car felt, like the vehicle itself was holding its breath. He exhaled slowly and crouched down. The asphalt pressed through the thin sole of his shoe, warm, real, grounding. He reached under the passenger seat and slid the object out. It was a slim black envelope. No markings on the front, no address, no logo, just smooth, unremarkable cardstock. Too deliberate to be random. Noah swallowed. His fingers hovered over the edge. Then he opened it. Inside was a single folded sheet and a small flash drive taped carefully to the paper. The sight of it made something in his chest tighten. This was no prank. Nobody taped a flash drive into an envelope for a joke. Not like this. His mouth had gone completely dry now. He unfolded the paper. The handwriting was printed in block letters, clean, careful. Do not ignore this. The moment you read this, things have already started moving. You are not the target, but you are now involved. Check the files, then decide how fast you want to walk away. No name, no explanation, just that. Noah stared at the words until they blurred slightly. You are not the target, but you are now involved. His stomach turned. This was exactly the kind of sentence that made ordinary people end up on the wrong side of situations they never meant to touch. He looked up sharply and scanned the parking lot again. The same woman with the water bottles was gone now. The cart kid had disappeared behind the store. The older man on the phone was no longer near the entrance. The lot had thinned out without him noticing. A slow, uncomfortable heat crept up the back of his neck. Noah forced himself to breathe slowly through his nose. Think. Options. He could throw this away, drive home, pretend none of it existed. But even as the thought formed, he knew the problem. Someone had put tape on his car door. Someone had planted this under his seat. Someone expected a reaction. People did not do this kind of thing randomly. His thumb rubbed unconsciously against the edge of the flash drive. Small, black, ordinary-looking, which somehow made it worse. He straightened slowly, envelope still in hand, and closed the passenger door with more care than necessary. The click sounded too loud in the quiet lot. For a long moment, Noah just stood there beside his car, heart still elevated, mind already racing ahead into possibilities he did not like. His first instinct was to call someone, but who? Police would ask questions he could not answer. Work would tell him to ignore it. His mother would panic. None of those helped. He looked down at the flash drive again, checked the files, then decide how fast you want to walk away. The words pressed against the inside of his skull. Walk away from what? That was the problem. He did not even know what he was standing in yet, and already it felt too close, too personal. Noah opened the driver door and slid into the seat. The familiar smell of his car wrapped around him, but it did nothing to settle the tightness in his chest. He placed the envelope carefully on the center console, started the engine. The low hum filled the silence. Normal, ordinary, safe. But his hands were still not steady on the wheel. He sat there longer than necessary, thinking, arguing with himself. Every sensible part of him said drop it in a trash can and go home. Pretend this never happened. But another quieter part of him kept replaying one line. You were not supposed to see this. Meaning someone else was. Meaning someone else's car, someone else's life. Had he just stepped into something meant for his neighbor in the apartment complex? For a coworker? For someone who looked just enough like him from a distance? The uncertainty itched under his skin. Noah finally pulled out of the parking space. But instead of heading toward the exit, he stopped at the far edge of the lot near an empty stretch of curb. He shifted into park again. Sat very still, his jaw tightened slowly. He hated this feeling. Hated not knowing. Hated the way his pulse refused to settle. After a long moment, Noah reached for his laptop bag on the back seat. If this was nothing, he would know in 30 seconds. And then he could finally breathe again. But as he plugged the flash drive into his laptop, a thin line of sweat had already formed at the base of his neck. Because deep down, before the screen even lit up, Noah Mercer already knew one thing for certain. Nothing about today was going back to normal. The laptop took too long to wake up, or maybe Noah's nerves would just stretch thin enough to make every second feel heavier. The screen finally lit. Soft blue glow, ordinary desktop. Nothing threatening, nothing dramatic. For half a second, Noah almost laughed at himself. Then the external drive appeared. One folder. No label except a date from 2 weeks ago. That was the first detail that made his shoulders stiffen. Whoever prepared this did not rush. They prepared. Noah hesitated with the trackpad under his finger. He could still stop, eject the drive, close the laptop, drive home. Heat up leftovers and pretend today had been uneventful. The option was still there, still clean, still simple. His finger moved anyway. The folder opened. Inside were 3 files, a short video, a PDF document, and an audio recording. No decorative names. Just simple numbered order. 1, 2, 3, like someone wanted him to follow a path. Noah felt his jaw tighten. He clicked the video first. The image loaded slowly, then resolved into grainy but clear security footage, black and white, timestamp in the corner. Late evening, an office parking garage. Rows of vehicles under fluorescent lights. Noah leaned closer without realizing it. The camera angle shifted. Different view, closer now. A silver sedan pulled into frame. Noah's breath caught. It looked almost exactly like his car. Same model, same color. Even the same small dent near the rear bumper. His stomach dropped hard. The driver door opened. A man stepped out. Mid-30s. Dark jacket. Baseball cap pulled low. The face stayed partially shadowed. But something about the posture made Noah's chest tighten. Familiar, uncomfortably familiar. The man moved around the vehicle, paused at the passenger side, looked around once, quick, practiced, then crouched, exactly where Noah had crouched less than 30 minutes ago. Noah's fingers curled slowly against the laptop edge. On the screen, the man reached under the passenger seat, slid something into place, careful, deliberate, then stood and walked away without looking back. The timestamp ended. Video stopped. Silence filled the car. Noah realized his breathing had gone shallow. Too fast. His pulse thudded hard enough to feel in his throat. Wrong car. You are not supposed to see this. The words from the note replayed in his head with new weight. This had not been random. Someone had prepared that drop. For that car, in that garage, 2 weeks ago, and somehow it ended up under his seat instead. His mouth went dry. Noah forced himself to open the PDF. The file expanded across the screen. Rows of information. Vehicle registrations, partial plate numbers, timestamps, locations. It took only a few seconds for the pattern to become obvious. Someone had been tracking a specific silver sedan across multiple locations. Gas stations, office lots, apartment complexes. The last entry sat at the bottom of the page. Today's date. Grocery Plaza parking lot. Noah's hands went cold. He scrolled back to the top. Read slower this time. One detail made his stomach twist harder than the rest. The license plate listed on the document. It was not his, but it was only 2 digits different. 2, that was all. Close enough from a distance. Close enough in poor lighting. Close enough for someone to make a very careful mistake. Or a very dangerous one. Noah leaned back slowly into the driver's seat. The leather felt too warm against his shoulders, too tight around his ribs. His mind was already trying to push the obvious conclusion away, but it kept circling back. Whoever planted that drive, whoever left that note, they were watching the wrong man. And now, because he opened it, because he looked, because he did not walk away when he had the chance. Noah Mercer was no longer invisible in this situation. He closed the laptop halfway, hands finally starting to shake, and for the first time all day, a quiet, ugly thought pushed its way to the surface. What if someone was expecting the other driver to respond? And what if someone was already watching to see what Noah would do next? Noah did not start the car right away. He just sat there in the quiet corner of the parking lot, laptop half closed on his lap, the engine still idling with a soft mechanical hum. Normal sound. Ordinary. It should have grounded him. It did not. His eyes kept drifting to the rearview mirror, then to the side mirrors, then back to the empty stretch of asphalt ahead. Nothing obvious, no one staring. No parked car with someone sitting too still behind the wheel. But the feeling had already settled into his chest. That thin, crawling awareness that something had shifted. The note had not felt like a joke. The tape had not been random. And the files on that drive had been too organized to belong to someone careless. You are not the target. But you are now involved. Noah pressed his tongue against the inside of his cheek, thinking hard. He should leave, drive home, delete the files. Pretend none of this existed. Every rational instinct he had was pushing in that direction. But another thought had started to needle its way under his skin. If someone had been tracking that other car, if someone had been careful enough to plant surveillance this precisely, then there was a chance. A small, uncomfortable chance They would come back to check. His grip tightened slowly on the steering wheel, because if they did, they would notice the tape had been removed. They would notice the package was gone, and whoever this was clearly did not like mistakes. Noah exhaled slowly through his nose. Think. Do not panic. He reached forward and gently powered the laptop fully off. The screen went dark. The reflection staring back at him looked tighter than it should. Jaw set, eyes too alert. He looked like someone already in the middle of something. That realization made his stomach turn. Noah slid the laptop back into his bag and finally shifted the car into drive. He pulled out of the lot slowly, carefully, like speed itself might attract attention. The late afternoon traffic was light but steady. A delivery truck rolled past. 2 teenagers crossed at the far end of the street. A woman jogged along the sidewalk with bright pink shoes flashing against the pavement. Everything looked painfully normal, and yet Noah's shoulders refused to drop. His phone buzzed suddenly in the cup holder. He flinched, actually flinched. A sharp, involuntary jolt that made heat rush into his face. He grabbed the phone too quickly. Unknown number, no preview text, just a single new message. His thumb hovered. For half a second he considered ignoring it. Then he opened it. 3 words. You opened it. No punctuation, no explanation, no greeting. Just that. Every muscle in Noah's back went rigid at the same time. A cold wave rolled straight down his spine. His heart slammed once. Hard. Then started racing. They knew, or someone thought they knew. His breathing turned shallow again. Too fast, too tight. Noah forced himself to glance up at the road. Stay calm, stay moving. Traffic light ahead, yellow. He eased to a stop. Hands gripping the wheel harder than necessary. You opened it. His mind was already trying to run through explanations. Coincidence, spam, random phishing. But the timing was too clean, too immediate. And deep down, the part of him that handled logistics for a living recognized patterns when it saw them. This was not random. Someone expected the other driver to check that drive, someone expected a reaction, and now Noah had just confirmed movement. His phone buzzed again. Second message, if you are not him, you need to stop now. Noah's throat tightened painfully. If you are not him. Meaning they were not completely sure. Meaning whoever was on the other end was still trying to verify. His pulse hammered even harder. The light turned green. Cars behind him began to move. One horn tapped lightly. Too normal. Too ordinary for the storm building in his chest. Noah drove forward slowly, mind racing faster than the traffic around him. If he replied, he confirmed engagement. If he ignored it, they might escalate. If he went to the police, he would have to explain why he had opened something clearly not meant for him. His jaw flexed once, hard. For the first time since the grocery store, something sharper than fear began to surface under his ribs. Frustration, because none of this had been his choice. Wrong car, wrong moment, wrong place, and now someone out there thought he was part of something he did not even understand yet. His phone buzzed a 3rd time. Longer message this time. The screen lit up against the dimming light inside the car. Noah hesitated, just for a second. Then he looked down, and the moment he read the next line, the tight, controlled version of his day cracked in a way he could not immediately fix. Because the message did not ask a question. It made a quiet promise, and it used his full name. Noah did not remember pulling into the gas station. 1 second he was driving. Next second the car was in park beside pump number 4, engine still running. Hands locked around the steering wheel like he needed the pressure to stay steady. His phone screen was still lit, still showing the message. Noah Mercer, we need to correct this quickly. The air inside the car felt thinner, like someone had quietly opened a window somewhere and let the pressure drop. They knew his name, not guessed, not close enough, exact. His first instinct was ugly and immediate. Panic. It came fast and hot, rising straight from his gut into his chest. His breathing shortened before he could stop it. This was the moment most people spiraled. This was the moment people made mistakes. Noah forced himself to inhale slowly through his nose. Hold. Exhale. Again. He had spent too many years working in logistics crises to completely lose control now. But control did not mean calm. His fingers finally loosened from the wheel, leaving faint pale marks across his palms. Think. Someone planted the drive. Someone expected the other car. Someone was watching for movement. And now, someone had his name. The question that mattered most slid into place. How? Noah grabbed the envelope from the center console again and flipped it over. Still blank. Still nothing obvious. No tracker visible. No return mark. He reached for the laptop bag and pulled it halfway open, eyes scanning the seams of the envelope more carefully this time. Then he saw it. Not inside. Outside. Near the fold. A tiny, almost invisible pinprick hole, too precise to be random damage. Noah's stomach dropped slowly. AirTag, or something like it. Small, hidden, silent. His pulse surged again, but this time something else rode alongside the fear. Anger, low and sharp, because this had not just been a mistake. Someone had prepared for the possibility that the wrong person might pick it up. His jaw tightened. They had not been sloppy, they had been thorough. Noah slid out of the car and stepped into the cool evening air, envelope still in hand. The gas station lights buzzed faintly overhead. A pickup truck idled 2 pumps down. A tired-looking cashier leaned against the window inside the convenience store. No one was paying attention to him. Still, his shoulders felt too tight, too exposed. He walked slowly toward the trash can beside the Windshield cleaning station, paused, then carefully tore the edge of the envelope open along the seam. Inside the paper lining, barely thicker than a coin. There it was, small black tracking tag, quiet, patient, waiting. A cold wave slid down his spine. They had not just been watching the car, they had been watching the package, watching whoever touched it, watching him. Noah stared at the device for a long second. His reflection in the chrome trash can looked sharper now, less like a confused man caught off guard, more like someone standing at the edge of a decision, because now the rules had changed. Before, he could have pretended this was accidental. Now, someone had put real effort into tracking whoever opened that envelope. His phone buzzed again in his pocket. Persistent, calm, like the person on the other end was not worried at all. Noah did not check it yet. Instead, he looked down at the tracker resting in his palm. Small, precise. Expensive enough that whoever planted it expected this operation to matter. His thumb pressed slowly against the edge of the device, and for the first time since the grocery store. Something inside him shifted. Not into bravery, not into confidence. Something quieter, colder. Because Noah Mercer had spent most of his adult life avoiding problems, avoiding conflict, avoiding attention. But standing there under the harsh white gas station lights, one uncomfortable truth finally settled in. Walking away clean was no longer guaranteed. Someone out there already believed he was involved, and people who set traps this carefully rarely liked loose ends. Noah finally reached into his pocket and pulled out the phone. The newest message sat waiting. Calm, patient, like whoever sent it was absolutely sure he would read it. Noah's jaw tightened once, then he opened the message. And the moment his eyes reached the second line, the cold feeling in his chest sharpened into something much more dangerous than fear, because whoever was on the other end was no longer guessing. They were giving instructions. The message was longer than the others. Not rushed, not emotional. Written with the calm precision of someone used to being obeyed. You will place the drive back under the passenger seat. You will reseal the door. You will leave the vehicle at the Riverside parking structure by 8:45 p.m. Do this, and you walk away clean. Noah read it twice, then a third time. His thumb hovered over the screen, but he did not type, did not react. His pulse was loud in his ears again, but his breathing had changed. Slower now, measured. Because one thing had become very clear. Whoever was on the other end still believed he was the original target. Or at least, they were willing to pretend. Noah leaned back against the side of his car, the harsh gas station lights flattening everything into sharp edges. The tracker sat in his other hand, small, silent, still active. They had expected the envelope to move. They had expected someone to read the contents. They had expected compliance. His jaw flexed slowly. For most of his life, Noah would have followed instructions just to make the discomfort stop. That had been his pattern. Keep the peace, stay small, avoid escalation. But something about the careful planning behind this situation kept scraping against the inside of his skull. Too precise, too controlled, too confident that whoever picked up that envelope would fall neatly into line. Noah glanced around the gas station again. A woman was arguing quietly with a man near the air pump. The pickup truck had left. A city bus hissed past the street beyond the lot. Everything still looked painfully normal, which somehow made the pressure inside his chest worse. He looked back down at the phone. Do this, and you walk away clean. The sentence bothered him more than anything else, because it was not a threat, not exactly. It was framed like a courtesy, like they were offering him an easy exit, and that meant one thing. They believed they had leverage. Noah exhaled slowly through his nose. Think like logistics. Step by step, someone had spent weeks tracking the other silver sedan. Someone had planted the drop 2 weeks ago. Someone had already prepared for mistakes. This was not random intimidation. This was a controlled operation, which meant, if he blindly followed instructions now, he might be walking directly into whatever trap had been meant for the other driver. His grip tightened slightly around the tracker, because there was another detail sitting quietly in the back of his mind. The video, the garage, the man in the baseball cap. There had been something about the posture, something uncomfortably familiar. Noah pushed that thought aside for now. Focus, immediate problem first. His phone buzzed again. Short follow-up message, clock is already running. That did it. A thin line of irritation finally broke through the tight coil in his chest. Not loud anger, not reckless emotion. Something quieter. More controlled. Because whoever this was, they were used to people panicking. Used to people scrambling. Used to people reacting exactly the way they expected. Noah straightened slowly away from the car. His shoulders felt different now, still tense, still alert, but no longer frozen. He opened the driver door and slid back into the seat, movements deliberate and unhurried. Let them watch. Let them think he was processing. The laptop bag rested against the passenger side floor. The flash drive still inside, exactly where they wanted it. Noah rested his hands lightly on the wheel, mind moving faster now, mapping possibilities. If he ignored them completely, they might escalate. If he obeyed too quickly, He confirmed compliance. Neither option felt clean. His eyes flicked once to the rearview mirror. A dark sedan rolled slowly through the far edge of the gas station lot. Not unusual, but his attention sharpened anyway. The car did not stop, did not linger, just passed through and disappeared onto the street. Still, the timing sat wrong in his gut. Noah looked back down at the phone screen. Do this, and you walk away clean. For the first time since this started, a different question surfaced. Not what they wanted, but why they were in such a hurry. Operations that careful did not usually rush the final step, unless something had changed, unless the window they expected was starting to close, unless they were not the only ones watching. Noah's pulse ticked up one notch. Slow, controlled, but sharper now, because if that was true, then blindly walking into Riverside parking structure tonight might not just be risky, it might be exactly what someone else was waiting for. He picked up the tracker again and turned it slowly between his fingers. Small, expensive, precise. A lot of effort had gone into making sure this package reached the right person. Instead, it had reached him. And standing there in the dim glow of the gas station lights, Noah Mercer finally understood one uncomfortable truth. This situation was no longer about avoiding trouble. It was about figuring out who was about to make the first real mistake. Noah did not drive home. That alone would have surprised anyone who knew him well. Routine had always been his safety net. Same routes, same grocery store, same quiet apartment complex where nothing dramatic ever happened. But tonight, routine felt like a spotlight. Too predictable. Too easy to track. Instead, he pulled out of the gas station slowly and merged into early evening traffic without a clear destination in mind. The sky had darkened another shade. Streetlights flickered on one by one. Inside the car, the silence pressed closer. His phone sat face down in the cup holder now, unread messages waiting. He knew better than to look every time it buzzed. Whoever was on the other end wanted urgency, wanted pressure, wanted him reactive. Noah kept his breathing steady and drove 3 blocks before making his first deliberate move. He turned into the parking lot of a crowded strip mall. Not random, calculated. Too many cars, too many cameras, too many people moving in and out of the big box stores for anyone to comfortably monitor just one vehicle. He parked near the far end under a bright overhead light and finally allowed himself to sit still again. His hands rested lightly on the steering wheel, but his jaw was tight, because now came the part he could not delay anymore. He reached for the phone. Screen lit instantly. 3 new messages, all from the same unknown number. You are wasting time. 8:45 does not move. Last chance to keep this simple. Noah read each one slowly. Let the rhythm sink in. Not emotional, not panicked. Whoever this was believed they still had control of the situation, believed pressure would work, believed he would fold. For a long moment, Noah just stared at the screen. Then something small but important shifted in his expression. Because buried under the tension and the creeping fear, another realization had finally settled into place. They had not called him, only texted. They had not shown themselves, only watched. They had not threatened him directly, only nudged. Which meant one critical thing. They were still unsure. If they had been certain he was the right man, the tone would be different by now. Colder, sharper, more direct. Noah exhaled slowly through his nose. The tight coil in his chest loosened just enough for clear thinking to push forward. This was still a verification phase, not a cleanup phase, not yet. His fingers finally moved, not to follow instructions, to type. Short, careful, deliberate. Wrong person. The message sat on the screen for 3 full seconds before he hit send. The moment it left his phone, his pulse kicked up hard again, because this was the first real move he had made all day, the first time he had stepped out of passive reaction. Now the waiting began. It lasted exactly 12 seconds. The reply came fast, too fast. "Prove it." Noah's jaw tightened slightly. Of course, no one running something this careful would take a stranger at their word. His eyes flicked once toward the laptop bag on the passenger floor, then back to the phone. He typed again, "The car in your video is not mine." Another pause. Longer this time, 20 seconds, 30, 40. Noah forced himself to keep breathing slow and even. Do not rush. Do not oversell. Let them think. Finally, the screen lit again. Then explain why the tracker moved. That one landed harder than the others, because it told him exactly how closely they had been watching. They had seen the envelope move. They had seen the change in location. They were already cross-checking behavior. Noah leaned back slowly in the seat. Mind working fast now, because the easy path would be to panic, to over-explain, to try too hard. Instead, he typed one final line, "Because someone put it in my car." This time, the silence stretched much longer. 1 minute, then 2. Noah could feel his heartbeat in his fingertips. Feel the thin film of sweat at the back of his neck again. Something had shifted on the other end. He could feel it. And when the next message finally appeared, the tone was no longer calm. It was careful. "Stay where you are." That was when Noah understood. The real test was no longer coming. It had just arrived. Noah did not move, not right away. He sat in the driver's seat under the harsh strip mall lighting, phone still in his hand, heart beating slow and heavy instead of fast and panicked. "Stay where you are." The message sat on the screen like a weight. This was different from the earlier pressure. Earlier had been controlled, measured, almost polite. This was something else. This was adjustment. Whoever was on the other end had stopped assuming. They were now verifying. Noah placed the phone carefully into the cup holder and forced himself to breathe through his nose. Slow in, slow out. His eyes lifted to the rearview mirror, then the side mirrors, then the steady flow of cars moving through the lot. Families heading into the discount store. A couple arguing quietly beside a shopping cart. A delivery van idling near the pharmacy entrance. Nothing obviously wrong. Nothing obviously focused on him. But the tension in his shoulders refused to drop. Minutes passed. 1, 2, 3. Long enough for the tight calm in his chest to start fraying at the edges. Then he saw it. A dark sedan turning slowly into the far end of the lot. Not speeding, not circling dramatically, just entering. Like any other car. But Noah's stomach tightened anyway, because something about the movement was too smooth, too deliberate. The sedan rolled past 2 empty rows, then 3, then angled quietly toward his section of the lot. Not directly, never directly. It parked 6 spaces away, engine still running, headlights off. For a moment, nothing happened. No doors opened, no sudden movement, just the low hum of the vehicle sitting in the artificial light. Noah kept his hands loose on the steering wheel, forced his posture to stay neutral. Inside, his pulse had started climbing again, because now the situation had crossed a line. Before this, everything had been digital. Distance, text messages, and silent tracking. Now, someone had shown up in person. The driver door of the dark sedan finally opened. A man stepped out. Mid-30s, dark jacket, baseball cap pulled low. Noah's breath caught before he could stop it. The same posture, the the same controlled, economical movements he had seen in the garage footage. Recognition hit his body before his mind could fully process it. The man closed the door quietly and started walking. Not fast, not aggressive, just a steady, confident approach across the parking lot, like someone who already expected cooperation. Noah's mouth had gone dry again. Every instinct in his body wanted to either drive away or lock the doors. He did neither, because something else had clicked into place. If this man was here to confirm identity, running would only answer the question for him. The footsteps grew closer. Measured, unhurried, the man stopped about 5 feet from Noah's driver's side window, close enough to talk, far enough to stay controlled. For a long second, neither of them moved. Then the man lifted one hand slightly. Not a wave, more like a signal to lower the window. Noah hesitated, just long enough to make it clear he was thinking. Then he lowered the glass halfway. Cool evening air slipped into the car. The man leaned slightly toward the opening. Up close, his face was still partially shadowed by the brim of the cap. But the voice, when it came, was calm and direct. "You are not Daniel Reyes." Not a question, a statement. Noah held his gaze steady. No. A quiet pause followed. The man studied him for a few seconds longer than comfort allowed, eyes sharp, evaluating. Then his jaw shifted slightly, almost annoyed. "You opened the drive anyway." Noah felt that one land in his chest. He did not rush to defend himself, did not over-explain, just answered plainly. "It was in my car." Another silence, heavier this time. The man's posture changed just slightly. Not relaxed, but recalculating. Behind the calm surface, Noah could feel the situation pivoting in real time, because this was the moment the other man had to decide something important, whether Noah was a problem or just a mistake. And the way the man's eyes narrowed slightly told Noah one uncomfortable truth. That decision was still very much in progress. The man did not speak right away. He just stood there beside the half-lowered window, studying Noah with a level of focus that made the back of Noah's neck tighten. Not emotional, not rushed, clinical, like he was comparing what he saw in front of him against something already stored in his head. Noah kept his breathing slow, even, but inside every nerve felt switched on. The man finally shifted his weight slightly. You look nothing like him. Still calm, still controlled. But the tone had changed, less certain, more careful. Noah kept his voice level. "I told you, it was in my car." Another pause. Long enough that the noise of the strip mall started creeping back into awareness. A shopping cart rattling somewhere behind them. A car door slamming 2 rows over. Normal sounds pressing awkwardly against a situation that was anything but normal. The man's gaze flicked briefly past Noah's shoulder into the car interior. Scanning. Quick. Professional. Then his eyes came back. "You watched the video." Again, not a question. Noah did not flinch. Yes. A small muscle moved in the man's jaw. Not anger, not yet. More like controlled irritation. That was not part of the plan. Noah almost let out a dry breath at that. The first honest thing anyone had said since this started. He kept his tone neutral. Neither was the tracker in my envelope. For the first time, something sharper flashed across the man's face. Quick, gone just as fast. But Noah caught it, and that told him something important. They had expected cooperation. They had not expected pushback. The man straightened slightly, hands loose at his sides, but the air between them had shifted. More alert now, more cautious on both sides. "Where's the drive?" There it was, the real question finally stepping forward. Noah did not rush the answer. He let 2 full seconds pass, watched the man's eyes carefully, then he nodded once toward the passenger floor, still in the bag. Another silence followed. Heavier, more deliberate. The man's gaze dropped briefly toward the passenger side, then back to Noah. You did not copy it. This time, it almost sounded like a question. Almost. Noah held his expression steady. No. The man watched him closely. Too closely. Noah could feel the weight of that stare pressing against his face, searching for cracks, searching for hesitation, searching for the exact moment someone lies. Noah forced himself to stay still. Not defensive, not overly calm, just tired enough to be believable. Finally, the man exhaled slowly through his nose. The first sign of real human reaction. This was supposed to be clean, quiet, almost to himself. But Noah heard it anyway. Something tightened low in Noah's chest, because that one sentence confirmed what his instincts had been circling since the parking lot. This operation had gone off script, and whoever this man answered to was not going to like that. The man's eyes sharpened again. Listen carefully. Noah's spine went subtly rigid, because the tone had shifted again. Less verification, more control. You're going to hand me the drive. You are going to forget today happened, and you are going to stop asking questions that do not belong to you. The words were calm, measured, but the pressure underneath them was unmistakable now. Noah felt his fingers tighten slightly against the steering wheel. Not from fear, not entirely, from something more complicated. Because for the first time since this started, the choice in front of him was no longer theoretical. It was sitting right here 5 feet away, waiting. Hand over the drive, walk away, return to quiet routines. Pretend the last 2 hours never existed. Simple, clean, safe. Except for one problem that would not leave his mind alone. Someone had tracked the wrong man for 2 full weeks. Someone had been patient enough to build this entire setup. And standing here now, Noah could feel it in the tight control behind the other man's posture. People this careful did not like loose ends. Noah lifted his eyes slowly back to the man's face. And for the first time since the grocery store, his next words were not automatic. They were a choice, and the moment he opened his mouth, the fragile version of this situation shifted again. Noah did not reach for the bag. That was the first thing the other man noticed. It showed in the slight tightening at the corner of his eyes. Not dramatic, but enough. Enough to confirm the balance between them had just shifted a few degrees. Noah kept both hands resting lightly on the steering wheel. Visible, non-threatening, but very deliberately still. You said this was supposed to be clean. His voice came out steady, even though something tight was still coiled under his ribs. The man's gaze sharpened. Careful. Why? Noah did not look away, because it was in my car. A brief silence followed. The air between them grew heavier, less procedural, more personal. For the first time, the man's posture lost a fraction of its smooth certainty. Just a fraction. But Noah saw it. You are making this harder than it needs to be. The tone remained controlled, but the patience underneath it had thinned. Noah exhaled slowly through his nose. Maybe. He tilted his head just slightly. But you came here yourself. That landed. Not loudly, not dramatically, but the man's jaw shifted once. Tight. Because they both understood what Noah had just pointed out. If this situation were truly simple, truly contained, someone like this would not be standing in a strip mall parking lot doing in-person verification. The man's eyes narrowed slightly. You are not part of this. Not yet. The last 2 words hung in the air longer than the rest. Quiet warning, carefully delivered. Noah felt a cold ripple move through his chest. Not yet. So that was how they were framing it. Like involvement was something that could still be assigned or removed, depending on what he did next. His fingers flexed once against the wheel, small movement, but enough to release some of the pressure building in his hands. I did not ask to be part of anything. His voice stayed calm, but there was something firmer under it now, something that had not been there an hour ago. The man studied him again, longer this time, evaluating, recalculating. Then his gaze flicked once toward the passenger side, back to Noah. Final time. The words came quieter now, more direct. Give me the drive. For a moment, neither of them moved. The noise of the strip mall felt distant, muted, like the world had narrowed down to just the space between the window and the man standing outside it. Noah's heartbeat pressed slow and heavy against his ribs. This was the exit, the clean one. Hand it over. Go home. Sleep badly for a few nights. Then eventually forget this ever happened. Most people would take that path. Most people would already be reaching for the bag. Noah did not, because something from earlier kept replaying in the back of his mind. The video, the careful tracking, the expensive precision of the setup, and one quiet, stubborn thought he could not quite shake. If they had been wrong once, they could be wrong again. Noah finally shifted. Slow, deliberate. His right hand left the wheel and moved toward the passenger seat. The man's posture sharpened instantly. Attention locked in, ready, watching. Noah's fingers reached the edge of the laptop bag. Paused. Then, instead of opening it, he looked back up at the man. Eyes steady now, more certain than they had been all evening. And when he spoke, his voice was still calm. But the cooperation that had carried him this far was officially gone. I think you should tell me what this really is first. The silence that followed was no longer procedural. It was dangerous. For the first time since the man stepped out of the sedan, the stillness between them cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough. The man's eyes hardened in a way they had not before. You do not need to know that. The calm was still there, but the patience underneath it had thinned to something much sharper. Noah did not look away. Maybe, he kept his voice level, but I think you need me to. That landed heavier than anything he'd said so far. The air between them tightened another notch, because now they were no longer dancing around the situation. Now they were negotiating leverage. The man's gaze flicked once toward the surrounding parking lot. Quick, professional, then back to Noah. You are misunderstanding your position. Noah felt the warning in that sentence. Clear, controlled. But he also heard something else buried under it. Urgency, small, carefully hidden. But there. His pulse ticked up slightly, because that matched what had been bothering him since the gas station. They were in a hurry. Operations this careful did not usually compress the final step unless something external was pushing the timeline. Noah let one slow breath out through his nose. Then he said quietly, "You tracked the wrong car for 2 weeks. That one hit." The man did not move much, but the muscle in his jaw locked hard enough for Noah to see it clearly now. Confirmation, not total, but enough. Noah pressed just slightly further. If this was still under control, you would not be here yourself. Silence. Heavy. Measured. The strip mall noise pressed faintly at the edges of the moment. A cart rolling somewhere behind them. A car door closing 2 rows over. The man finally spoke again. And now the tone had shifted. Less patient, more direct. You are close to making a mistake. Noah felt the cold warning in that sentence settle across his shoulders. But he also noticed something else. The man had not denied anything. Not the wrong car, not the timeline, not the urgency. That was all Noah needed. His fingers rested lightly on the edge of the laptop bag, still not opening it, still not handing anything over, just enough resistance to keep the pressure balanced. I already did. He met the man's gaze steadily. When I opened the drive, another long pause followed. This one stretched thin, because now they were both standing at the same uncomfortable edge, the point where this could still de-escalate, or slide somewhere neither of them wanted. The man exhaled slowly through his nose. First real sign of strain. You should not have done that. Not loud, not emotional. But there was weight behind it now. Noah believed that part. Completely. His mouth felt dry again. But he held steady. Too late for that. For a moment, something colder moved behind the man's eyes. Calculation shifting gears. When he spoke again, the words came slower. Carefully chosen. What exactly did you see? There it was. The real concern finally stepping into the open. Not the drive itself. Not the mistake. The information. Noah felt the tension in his shoulders tighten and release in the same breath. Because now he understood the leverage on the table. Not much, but not nothing either. His answer came simple. Enough to know you were in a hurry. The man's jaw flexed again. Harder this time. The first crack in his smooth control. And that was when Noah realized something that sent a quiet chill down his spine. This situation was no longer just about correcting a mistake. Something else was moving. Something time, sensitive enough that this very controlled man was now standing in a public parking lot, recalculating in real time. The silence stretched, thin, tense, balanced on a knife edge, and when the man finally spoke again, the calm had not disappeared. But it had sharpened into something much more dangerous. You are going to give me the drive now. The sentence was quiet. Flat. No room left inside it. And for the first time since this started, Noah could feel the moment fully arrive. The one where this either stepped back or broke forward into something neither of them could easily contain. Noah did not move. The man's last sentence still hung in the air between them, quiet and absolute. You're going to give me the drive now. No raised voice, no visible threat. But the pressure behind it had hardened into something unmistakable. This was the edge. Noah could feel it in the tightness across his shoulders, in the slow, heavy rhythm of his pulse. One wrong move now, and this situation would stop being controlled, stop being careful. He let out a slow breath through his nose. Then he did something small that changed everything. He leaned back slightly in the driver's seat. Not aggressive, not submissive, just settled. The man noticed. Noah could see it in the slight narrowing of his eyes. Because until now, Noah had been reacting, processing, adjusting. But this was the first time he looked like someone making a decision. You said I am not your guy. Noah's voice stayed even. Quiet. The man did not answer. Which was answer enough, Noah continued. So rushing this does not help either of us. A thin line formed at the corner of the man's mouth. Not quite irritation, not quite respect, something in between. You are overestimating your leverage, maybe. Noah's fingers rested lightly on the laptop bag, but you are still here. Silence. Heavy. Measured. The strip mall noise felt very far away now. For a long moment, the man simply watched him. Then, slowly, something in his posture shifted. Not relaxed, but recalibrated. When he spoke again, the words were quieter. Different. What did you notice? There it was. The real concern. Noah kept his answer simple. The timeline, the tracking pattern, and the fact that you would not be standing here if this was still on schedule. The man held his gaze. Long. Unblinking. Noah could feel the weight of that look pressing into him, testing for bluff, for panic, for cracks. Finally, the man exhaled slowly. First real sign of acceptance. Not full trust, not even close, but enough. You were not supposed to intersect this. Noah almost let out a tired breath at that. Yeah, I got that part. Another pause. Then the man did something Noah had not expected. He reached into his jacket slowly, carefully. Every movement deliberate enough that Noah's muscles tensed automatically. The man pulled out a small card. Plain. White. No logo. No decoration. He held it between two fingers. If you copied anything, if you speak to the wrong person, if this shows up where it should not. His voice stayed calm, but the warning underneath it was unmistakable. You will hear from people less patient than me. Noah held his gaze. Steady. I did not copy it. Another long look, measuring, weighing. Then the man finally gave a single short nod. Decision made, good. The tension in Noah's chest loosened a fraction. Not relief, just space to breathe again. The man extended his hand slightly toward the passenger side. Now, slowly, carefully. Noah reached for the laptop bag, unzipped it, removed the flash drive. The small black device looked strangely ordinary after everything it had triggered. He held it out through the window. The man took it without hesitation, without gratitude, without another word. For a second, Noah thought that might be the end of it. Then the man paused, studied him one last time. You really were in the wrong place today. Not unkind, not friendly, just factual. Noah let out a quiet breath. Story of my life. For the first time, the faintest shadow of something almost human crossed the man's expression. Gone just as fast. He stepped back, turned, walked calmly across the parking lot toward the dark sedan. Noah did not move until the car pulled away and disappeared into evening traffic. Only then did the tight control in his shoulders finally crack. He leaned forward slowly, both hands gripping the steering wheel. Breathing out. Long. Shaky. The strip mall noise came rushing back all at once. Carts, voices, engines. Normal life continuing like the last 2 hours had not happened. Noah sat there for a full minute, maybe 2, letting the adrenaline drain. Letting his pulse come back down to something close to normal. Eventually, he started the car again. Pulled out of the space, merged into traffic. Heading home this time, for real. But one thought stayed with him the entire drive. Quiet, uncomfortable, because right before the man walked away, he had slipped the white card onto Noah's center console. Noah did not notice it until he stopped at a red light 10 minutes later. Plain, unmarked, except for one line printed in small, clean letters. If anything else shows up, call this number first. Noah stared at it for a long moment, then finally leaned back in the seat. Exhaustion settling deep into his bones. Whatever this had been, it was not completely finished with him, not yet. If this story pulled you in and kept you guessing, let me know by subscribing to FinalText and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps more stories like this reach the right audience.